Today is a fucking special day because not only is it our 6th episode, we have a very special person here today, our very first guest on the podcast. And it is not just any guest. This guest that we're talking about is someone that I stumbled upon on social media quite a while ago when we started our own augmented reality journey. And he is not just a street artist, a professional videographer. He's also dwelt recently over the past few years in the augmented reality and the XR space, and he's done so much great worked with big brands, and also, not to mention, he's really helped the community grow and has created awareness around augmented reality and XR. He is no other than Doddz. Thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Thank you for that very warm intro. I am honored to be your first guest, so thank you for having me on.
No worries, man. First off, before we get into the serious stuff, I have to ask, man, we saw on your social media, you went to Japan. You spent, I don't know, a month?
How long you were there, actually?
6 weeks, 7 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Okay, how does that even happen? How does one decide to go to 6 weeks, like go to Japan for 6 weeks?
Well, I can't take credit for the travel planning. My girlfriend Steph organizes all of that, so I'd be lying if I said that it wasn't stressful. It wasn't stressful for me, but I'm sure it was stressful for her to organize it. But I started working in the. I quit my job like in the middle of COVID and was working freelance and got really fed up. Obviously during lockdown when we're all sort of like cramped in, and I just was like swore to myself when the time came when we could all go out and we could go and travel. Like some of my clients are in the US, some of them are in the UK, some of them are in Asia. Like that, I would go and travel and work remotely and try and have that sort of, whilst I can before I settle down and have responsibilities, go and have that sort of traveling lifestyle. So there's been a few setbacks, but there's been a lot of traveling as well over the past few years. So it's been very exciting.
Okay, I gotta ask, because we used to live in Malaysia and we never fucking had the chance to go to Japan. So as an anime fan, I gotta ask, what's your most favorite thing about Japan?
Yeah, that's putting me on the spot, to be fair. I can't I mean, like, the obvious answers are like, oh, the food and the people are both amazing, and just like the city and the architecture is all great. I mean, I enjoy thrift shopping, so like the thrift shop selection there was unreal. But there's the sort of hot food section in Family Marts that they have there in the 7-Elevens is unrivaled anywhere globally, I would argue. I would say some of the hot food sections in those in the Family Marts.
That's crazy. And I've seen when people go to Japan, they usually come back very inspired because they see things that are really different in terms of culture, art, everything. How did it feel like for you?
Yeah, definitely. I'm really glad you brought that up. The art exhibitions that I went to have definitely inspired all future art exhibitions that I have. Like anything that I do in the future will definitely be different for the better because I went there. They have this Team Labs exhibitions over there, which are these like immersive installations, I guess you'd call them, but they're just amazing. Yeah, definitely some of the best in the world, I'd argue with.
Did you get to meet any of the AR artists that are in Japan when you were there?
Not really, which kind of sounds really boring. We kind of did our own thing, sort of a mix between tourism and sort of XR research. So I don't think we did meet anybody, which is a shame now. I'm thinking back about it.
Okay, I think it would have been a good chance. But I want to know one more thing. Do you actually watch anime?
No.
Okay, all right. We need to get you and Farhad into anime right now. I've been trying to get Farhad to watch
because I think.
Sorry, go on.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that because we knew we were going, we were like, oh, we should watch anime, and it was a case of like, the thing is, we'll start watching it and then we'll love it so much that like we'll just won't do anything else, and we'll stop working and like we won't go out and do it.
Our lives will be ruined.
Yeah. We knew we were gonna love it.
Dude, that's fucking true for anime, because like big animes have thousands of episodes. Like if you want to catch up to some of these animes, you have to spend like a couple of years in your life. So if you're trying to build a career, I don't think anime is for you. Like that shit won't work.
Yeah.
You better off starting in high school or somewhere like that, not like when you're trying to build a career. Like for sure, I agree with you.
So I
glad
think one thing that I'm really curious about is how did you stumble upon digital art and 3D work? Because I know you started as a street artist, you came in as a professional videographer. What was the moment that you said that, oh, I want to go into AR and this is the moment for me to, start exploring?
It was so I as you said, I was a street artist when I came out of university, and I uh, kind of wanted to develop an art style that was like instantly recognizable. So that kind of led me to trying different mediums, and over like a period of like 3 or 4, maybe 4 years, I was just trying any sort of medium that, like, 6 months at a time, to just experiment in and see if it gelled with me, see if it turned into something that was like instantly unique. So augmented reality was really just the last in a long line of experiments. I was making hand painting clothing when I then thought about augmented reality, and the idea of holding your phone up to a jacket that I'd painted and it did something was just like, I thought was a really cool idea. But the reaction from that one piece just like blew up, and I was like, oh, this might be something that's worth doubling down on. All the other experiments didn't, do as well as this, and I really enjoyed working with that as a medium. So it just sort of snowballed from there, and it's just been like as I'm sure you're learning now, sort of early on in your AR career, that it's like a steep learning curve to just learn all the technical side of things. But yeah, it's kind of just I actually sorry.
No worries.
I saw an Instagram ad. I was lying in bed and I just saw an Instagram ad for some like really basic AR app that did like pictures, and that was about it. So it was just like I just stumbled. I couldn't have stumbled more across just like an absolute goldmine, really.
I'm actually very curious when you talked about the jacket thing. How did it blow up? Was it an accident, or did someone famous shared it, or was it just like, how did it suddenly become so big?
So the denim jackets that I was doing were for celebrities like hip hop artists, and then I did a jacket of Kobe Bryant, which opened up and had a basketball.
I remember seeing that. I remember seeing it. That was fucking crazy.
That one that blew up, and then more celebrities wanted to get, like, it was then easier to get celebrities to do the jackets. Then brands started knocking on the door like almost immediately about doing something, and then it just sort of like you do more brands and more brands and more celebs, and it just like snowballed, really.
So have you actually continued doing the jackets, or have you stopped working on the jackets and the AR experiences for that?
Yeah, I've stopped hand painting. I'm not a painter. This is what I'm saying. Like, I tried all this stuff. Like, I'm never going to be the best painter in the world. So like, I'm better off leaving that for somebody else to pick up on. So I put and because I knew that I wanted to travel, I knew I needed an art style that didn't really require a studio. So that kind of like pushed me into more into the AR stuff, and I was doing more of the brand work. So I was getting better at 3D modeling, which, so it's like it's been a really, really slow progress to now a point where yeah, I'm not ruling out clothing, but it definitely won't be hand painted.
Right. No, gotcha. But I mean, we saw the videos of the jackets. We'll probably have them all up in the podcast as well, so you guys can check them out because they do look amazing. Now, I gotta ask you one thing. What is your source of inspiration when you're creating, let's go all the way back to your street art and now augmented reality. We know that all of these pieces that you put up on social media or you work with brands, they all require certain motivation and inspiration. Where do you go to find these inspiration? Is it from movies, from films, from books? How does that happen in your mind?
It probably comes from a variety of places. Like, I just love this creative skill set. Like, there's so much that you can do. We're only, say, maybe like 5-7 years in, so no one's really like discovered like the best way of doing everything. So just every new project is like, oh, I've never really thought about how AR could work with television or broadcasting or something like that. So that's like that's so exciting to be like, how can it try and solve that problem? So from the brand work point of view, that's always like an exciting project. Like, how do you best market using augmented reality or whatever? But in terms of like inspiration for ideas, I am. The first thing that came to mind when you said that is that I got told once about having a sliding scale for your ideas when you hear like a brief or you're trying to come up with something. So like 1 would be like the most obvious thing, which is usually like design a poster or something if you're a graphic designer. And like 10 would be do the most craziest thing that's like what isn't possible but would just be like amazing, and it's like send it to the moon or something like that. And then try and think of like a 7 or 8, try and like work a few steps back. So like what's the most viable version of sending it to outer space or something like that. And that's
genius. I love it.
Yeah.
This is great. I actually never thought about that, to create that 0 to 10 and
The
then
scale.
to land somewhere on 7 and 8. I think that's something that
it gets those obvious answers just like on paper or whatever, like an out. So you just out of your brain, and then you can just start getting creative. I mean, with also no pressure. Do you know what I mean? Just like what is not possible, but would just be like amazing. And then like that, oh, okay, I know that I can't do that, but I might be able to do something that's like a little bit like it.
It's funny you brought that up. I was watching this video. I don't know if you guys watched The Office. I was watching this video on TikTok, and they were talking about how the writers come up with every episode's idea. Because, when you talk about these series that are like multiple seasons, multiple episodes, the writers really have to get creative with the way they do it, right? With the way they write the stories. So they have these, now I'm thinking if it was Breaking Bad or The Office.
It was Office, you told me.
The Office,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So they essentially, what they do, Doddz, is they sit down before every season and they have a what if week. So for 1 week, they sit down and they just have what if this guy murdered this girl, or what if he hit her with a car, or they just throw ideas without any sort of repercussions. So no one's gonna judge it. They just say what ifs. And after they gather like 100 what ifs, then after the first week, they start to get a little bit more logical with it. So similar to what you said, they just bring that scale down and see, okay, maybe some of these are not that crazy. Maybe they will be funny and they will actually work in the story. So just going back to what you said, I genuinely believe that's the most fantastic way to go about it when you're trying to be inspired. Because if you do end up going the direction of being just logical with everything you create, then you're not going to be so creative, are you?
No, and it will have already been done, like I'm sure a 1,000 times. But that's a great little anecdote from The Office. I love The Office, but I didn't know that they did that. So I appreciate that little BTS.
I mean, very similar to your process, I guess, right? We try to deploy that ourselves because, it's hard to define creative and creativity, right? You just have to, I guess the easiest way to put it is you just have to do crazy shit, right? You just have to do things like you mentioned that has not been done before. And usually good creative work is the kind of work that gets judged early on. I genuinely believe that. And then eventually it becomes creative because you keep on doing it, you improve that process, and then people start believing in your vision if you just keep going forward. One thing I'd like to touch on is I mentioned this earlier on, you work with a lot of big brands, and I'm sure a lot of AR creators that are out there, because there's a huge population of AR creators, but what actually happens is a lot of people might not have the opportunity to work with big brands, or they don't know how to actually initiate that journey. A lot of people will always stay in that area of creating AR for passion or creating AR just for fun. However, I genuinely believe a lot of people want to turn that passion into a career, but not just working with, small brands, but penetrating that layer that is, it's almost like a visible layer. Like you can see it. Like if I can just go through this, I'll be able to work with, all these big brands. How does one achieve that? Let's talk about AR creators, and then if you want, you can even, branch out. It can be for street artists or anything. How does one go from turning art as passion into something that is a career?
That's I feel like it's relatively straightforward, and it comes down to personal branding, something that you guys are doing a great job of. Like whether you're presenting yourselves on social media, you clearly.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate it.
In the space, but if I am a hobbyist and I want to start getting brand work, then I need to be posting about it. And not only do I need to be posting about the work that I'm doing, I need to be talking about the XR space, and I need to be showing myself as a thought leader, because inevitably, if I'm on LinkedIn and I've added, some marketing managers at an agency, and they see I'm consistently turning up and chucking my opinion on this stuff, or I'm talking about this work that I did do that had like a really long dwell time, or it did really well with impressions, then inevitably the conversation will come up in their meeting room about doing something with AR, because that's what everybody does. And then you'll be the person that they think of. and then they'll just message you because they don't know. They're assuming that you know because you've talked about it online. So how you're presenting yourself on social is like number one. And I would say all of the work that I get comes through that avenue, but it's usually I'll do something like a piece of artwork, or let's say like a jacket, then I did some like body tracking thing. In fact, I can't see the client, but I did a body thing where I was Drake and I was like dancing and it was like stupid, but it showed body tracking. And then I got a DM for a superhero film that I can't mention about doing a body tracking experience for them because they'd seen it on LinkedIn. So I'm not even doing work. I'm just posting like, something silly, and it ended up being the biggest job I've done actually today.
Isn't it funny that you bring that up? It's the concept of creating content about just different things, right? Like trying out every single aspect of your passion and creating content out of that, because you never fucking know what hits. You never know. Sometimes we have like the stupidest idea and I'm like, this is never going to work. And then we post about that and boom, a client approaches you for that very specific thing.
It's always like that, right? Like one piece of it, like, who's gonna watch this? This is not useful for anybody. You post it, it gets more traction than the video that you prepared for days, and you get someone DMing you, hey, can you do this for me? And it all goes from there.
Yeah, I mean, don't even get me started on just like, I guess, like the algorithm on the stuff that we'll prepare for a long time, and all the stuff that I'm always excited about. And it's probably because like I just get really excited about it or over explain it or something like that like those bits of content don't do very well. But the stuff I'm almost like nonchalant about will always bang. So there's no reason.
Do you mind me asking, if you don't mind me asking, what is the thing that you made that flopped the biggest? Like maybe it was a piece of content or an AR that you were like super pumped about, but like it flopped. Or maybe the opposite, if you remember something you thought is going to flop, but then did like extremely well.
I can't necessarily think of like a project. I wish I had one for you, but just like bits of content that I'll like prepare, and like when we work it through, we work out like a formula based off what's worked well in the past. So you kind of like, oh, this should perform really, really well, and then like even though you followed the recipe and it just doesn't, and then something like we'll post like some tacky meme and it will just like blow up. In fact, we've done like I've done like a Wednesday Adam artwork piece, which obviously around Netflix time. So like I was like comfortable, this is gonna bang, and then it didn't. And then we did the reaction meme. Remember that boat on TikTok, the meme of like the boat, like
yes,
we got her in it, and that banged, and I was just like, oh, it's just artwork, so, making it and then doing all the videos and the AR experience for it. But it was the meme.
It was the meme about the whole thing. Yeah.
So that's the whole point of posting no matter what, because you would never know. But one thing we are practicing here is to really try to not be emotionally attached to the content that we put up online. I want to know, how does that look like for you? Like, are you emotionally attached to a certain piece of content? No. When you post, do you check like how many views, how many likes, or you let it go?
You definitely like check the amount of likes. More, I'm interested to see what's performing and what's not. But in terms of emotional attachment, there's like zero, because like I can't remember what I posted 2 weeks ago. I'm sure you guys can't. Like it matters and it doesn't matter. Like it matters because you need to know what works and therefore to prepare. But to prepare something better in the future. But if it doesn't perform well, then like. No,
fuck it and move on. Yeah.
So what?
The worst thing you could do is like get demotivated and like stop posting, because especially if you're starting out, because you're gonna have to post loads for ages. So if you get emotional about it, then it's just not gonna work out for you.
I think that's a perfect piece of advice. I've seen a lot of people post once or twice, and when it doesn't work out, they think that, oh, nobody likes AR, or nobody likes my art, or nobody likes 3D. It's not a fact that one or two pieces of content didn't work. You just didn't post enough. I think you should, like for ourselves, when we want to do something, we usually throw a big number. Like for this podcast, we said we don't even look at anything until episode 20. Like daily vlog, we want to go on to
episode 100. Yeah,
like we shouldn't even look at things in the beginning, because honestly, like that doesn't really matter. You should just keep posting, and one of them hits, and the moment it hits, it's just snowball and it goes, and everything will be better after that.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. Sorry, please go ahead.
It's not even necessarily about like big hitters, like I said about the personal branding. It's about consistency. So even if you get a small amount of views, like that, maybe somebody would have seen that one, and then they would have seen you post again and again and again and again. Like when they're in their briefing and AR comes up, even if you have like one big hitter, it's difficult to like remember. You know, you probably forget anyway. But if you've been there for like 6 months every day talking about AR and work with this client, this development's happened, which is good for these brands. You know, like ray tracing's come out, which is good for jewelry, so you can have better virtual try.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll make more money. Like just keep turning up. That's it. Like I wouldn't be even worried about big numbers really. Yeah, I don't think I obviously want to grow like the social platforms, but it's more important to me that just like we're just turning up every single day.
It's just like keeping your face on social media as much as you possibly can, right? If your plan is marketing, of course, if your plan is to market yourself, just keep your face, because it's free to put your face up there. Like if you can get more ad space, essentially, when I'm saying ad space, I mean like just to show up on people's feed space. Yeah. Why don't you just do it more often? I mean, I know it's difficult. That's what Gary Vee is like talking about all the fucking time. He's just trying to tell people, I know it's difficult, but it's the only way to grow. Like if you really want it, this is how you do it. So the recipe is quite simple, like you mentioned. It's just, are you willing to do it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And go ahead, please.
No, I was just gonna say that that's for those who are, you know, trying to break out into like the marketing world. But even if you're an artist and you're trying to grow as an artist, again, just turning up every day. So maybe it's not a briefing room, but it's somebody's redecorating their house and they need artwork. Then if you've just kept turning up every day and showing that you're doing artwork, then again, you'll come. And even by just doing it, I guess I'm going on a little rant now, but even by just doing it every day, you will just get like, you'll learn, oh, this video did better, this video didn't do so well. You'll just keep going, and then you'll get to a point where your artwork's looking really good. And the fact that you're making social content will make you make more artwork. As like I'm sure you guys are finding with the daily vlogs, you're having to actually go out and do stuff and put yourself out. Yeah. It's just like, as you guys are saying about consistency.
And even if you, I mean, this is where I think if anybody who's an aspiring artist who's trying to grow on social media, again, this is a little off topic, but I think it's necessary. If you just put yourself in the shoes of the viewer, which we are, all of us, if we do spend time on social media, I don't know about you guys. I actually want to ask you guys, I genuinely only follow somebody in any domain when I see their face at least 3 or 4 times within a week or 2 weeks duration, and then I see useful content that I like. I usually don't follow somebody the first time I see them. Even if the video is like fantastic, I'm like, okay, maybe just one video. But if I see them twice that week and they have videos for me that is interesting, for example, recently I've been getting a lot heavily into color grading. Like I want to get better. I've been seeing like a bunch of people who are really great at that. And then when I see more of their contents pop up now, and it's also towards color grading, and they're giving me more tips, more tricks, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna follow this guy. You know, I wanna see what he has for me. So I feel like it's the same for artists. Like that's why you mentioned consistency is a lot more important than just getting one video that has like a super high view, and then after that, just like you don't produce anything.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think if you're seeing them a couple of times, then you're obviously gaining some like value out of them. So it's if I see a video and I'm like blown away by the value, then maybe off or like the quality of the work or something like that. If I'm looking at an artist, then maybe I'll follow them just to keep up to date. But yeah, it's ultimately a value exchange. If it's going to be worth somebody giving you a follow or me giving somebody a follow, what am I getting in return? Which I guess you're getting color grading tips.
Yeah. So I think just since we are talking about social media, I saw a post that you posted on LinkedIn, which got a lot of traction. And I saw a lot of AR creators, which I respect. Eddie Adams, Luke, they all commented under it. It was about 90% of the brand using augmented reality not correctly. And you gave the example of the restaurants and food menu and how brands should use augmented reality when there is a value added or when there is an addition to the story. What do you think is the solution to that problem? And I want you to really expand on that because I think that's a very important
That's a fantastic
topic.
video. Honestly, that was one of the best videos I've seen in the AR space.
The expand on the solution for like specifically a food menu or how brands are using
No, in general that brands are not doing it correctly, and then just like how AR should be used in terms of just adding more value and more story and not just replacing a photo or something that is already existing.
I guess when I'm having the thought came from I like having these meetings with brands and sort of asking them like, why do you want to use augmented reality, or like, what does success look like to you? And it's not always AR is the answer. Like perhaps they think that it's AR, but perhaps, you know, putting that money in spend or not even on social or something else like might ultimately help them. So I always try and, if I'm speaking to a client, like dig a little deeper into like what it is that they're trying to get out of it. And then if it's, say, like the food menu example, for I guess for the context for anybody who hasn't seen it, that the placing a 3D model of your food on your menu, like, it does sound great, and it might look good, but it doesn't do anything that a really good photograph doesn't do. Like, I don't need to see the food from all
in
angles.
3D.
Like, you know, it does. There's nothing that a menu doesn't do. And I think from going from the personal branding point of view, that post where I'm the AR creator saying, you might be doing AR wrong. Most people are. That's then for these marketeers or these brands is offering a piece of trust that if they then think about AR, they go, oh, they'll come speak to me because I'll tell them if they're not doing it right or if there's a better way of doing it. So there's I guess 2 points to burrow down into there. There's the personal branding point of view, which is like building trust, and then using AR not just for AR's sake, but if I just go back to the point about like, oh, how can AR and TV work together? That's like a really interesting thing, that you won't just be watching. If you could like engage with the content and put it in your room in front of you, you're not just passively watching TV, you're engaging with it, which is like a whole different type of like content to consume. So that is taking AR and doing something better, whereas that food example is not necessarily adding anything to it, or in some cases like the demographics wrong. You know, old people aren't really using augmented reality. So in briefs where it's like, we want to do AR, and it's like, who's your target audience? It's like old men, and it's like, well, they're not going to use AR. Do you know what I mean? So
yes.
So I'm not sure if there's points to be taken out of there, but hopefully that helps.
No, 100%. And since you mentioned about the usage of AR for demographic, what action do you think we should take for the AR to be, you know, mostly widely used and to get to that mass adoption level? Because we have seen still a lot of people think that, you know, a lot of brands don't think of AR in their marketing when it comes to their campaign. They need to be educated. There is a lot of people who think of AR as gimmicky. They don't think that it adds any value because of the perception that they have. But what do you think in the coming years? Because we can see that, you know, AR is really expanding the use of AR in branding and also in entertainment. What do you think can be done for AR to be, you know, mostly widely used now?
Well, first of all, I'd agree. I think a lot of it is gimmicky because what you can actually put into like a social media filter isn't that much, because you've got small file sizes, because you've got slow internet speeds.
Fuck, man, that's the part that hurts the most. Yeah. The small file size. Please keep going, but that fucking hurts, man.
Yeah, but I mean, if 5G or something like that comes along, makes the internet speeds better, so download speeds are better, then you can have bigger file sizes, which means you can have more detailed 3D models, or perhaps more 3D models, so you can have like a longer experience. That's when you start looking at something that's not gimmicky. And then in terms of what it needs to be for mainstream adoption, I think an education, like you said there, needs to be done for the users and for like the marketeers. But the tech's going to get better. The cameras are going to get better. I say in meetings that like, we're not even using the right device for AR. That's how early it is. It's very unnatural to put your phone in front of you and like have that experience. But when we're 10 years from now, if we're all wearing glasses, which it looks very much like we will be, because every tech company is building a pair of glasses, then Tim Cook says, like, well, there'll be a time where you can't even believe that you didn't have AR. And that will be the case because you'll be like, in the same way that I guess our parents talk to us about like old tech or only having one phone in the house or something like that, we'll be like, we had to carry this brick around in our pockets. You know, people won't believe it.
It feels so detached. I mean, exactly what you said. Like, it feels so detached when you think about it. Like, to have, because I was listening to this podcast where right now the transfer of data, because our brains can transfer data at a very, very high speed, but the communication channel between us, our brains, and the phone, that's the weak spot. I think Elon Musk was saying this. So if we can figure out a way to make that communication channel faster, eventually, I don't know how. I don't know. Neuralink is going to be the way somehow. I don't know. But for us to be able to just think it and for it to just, happen, that's when like like you mentioned, like the phone is just going to sound really funny because it doesn't make any sense. Why would you want to have that? So eventually, I wouldn't even say 10 years, Doddz. Like looking at how things are moving with AI, which we are going to cover, and all these techs that are coming about, I think I would say 5 years. Like
every company is having now a pair of AR glasses. Like in the past month, Xiaomi was one. Oppo was another one. Like everybody is releasing just AR glasses.
Some of them look really ugly though. Like they really need to work on the fucking design. I don't know if have you seen the Xiaomi ones?
Sorry?
Have you seen the Xiaomi AR glasses?
No, I don't think I've seen them.
Okay, I don't know why they've spent so long like working on the actual tech, but they didn't spend time on the design. It's not something like that's one I think one other issue. Like if you want it to be mass adopted, you have to think about the design as well.
The style, yes.
Yeah, the style, because if you want people to wear that.
I wouldn't, yeah, I do agree with you saying. I know that Meta said that we're all going to be wearing, there'll be mainstream adoption of AR glasses in the next 4 years, but I mean, you can take that, I guess, with like a pinch of salt, but in terms of these like ugly glasses or these very limited capabilities within these glasses, they're all still exciting sort of like first steps. We're talking about like education on like the mainstream. You need to get people used to wearing cameras on like Ray-Bans in Meta's collab got like a bit of negative press, but because it can do too much, but it's like the first step of getting people used to wearing cameras on their face all day. You've got probably a data concern that needs to be widely adopted by people, recording every day. It just needs to we couldn't just announce tomorrow these like AR glasses because nobody would know how to use them. Like, it just like wouldn't work like that. It's going to be like, it will be a slow process, but when we finally get there, it'll be worth the wait.
Do you have any idea which company is going to nail it? Do you think it's going to be Apple? Do you think it's going to be Meta?
I mean, Meta are making the most noise, but I mean, you got to wait until you see Apple's headset, when that comes out. But it's difficult to say. I mean, I think the stuff Snapchat does is also as far
a decent job, yeah.
Else, but yeah, I would stick with Apple, but I haven't seen what they're working on, but they're pretty good at design.
It's just a good place to put our money on because whatever Apple releases tends to be something that everybody wants to fucking buy, right? Like we have friends who literally don't. Sorry, please go ahead.
No, sorry, I interrupted.
No, I'm just saying that we have friends who literally don't even think about the product. They're just like, okay, Apple's released it. Let's go buy. It's like sneaker shopping. Like some people just get all the Jordans they can get. It's the same concept with Apple. But I mean, theoretically speaking as well, Apple does make great products, right? Whatever they create, they do spend a lot of time researching, which is also why I believe they let Meta and Snapchat make the mistakes they have to make to create these experiences. They just want to take the good press, right? They want to start with something that is like straight up, like has all the answers. However, I do agree that Meta and Snapchat have done a great job, creating all these different versions throughout the years, because without them, all these experiments wouldn't have been done and we wouldn't be able to be where we are today.
It's really tricky just to and there's pros and cons for like both businesses. I think Meta and Snapchat, like the failing in public aspect of their like different versions that they're bringing out is great because the feedback that they're getting is probably changing the way that they're doing their work. And AR glasses is going to need thousands of people's input, bigger than any company. There'll be ways that like we'll use it that perhaps they wouldn't have even thought of. And I don't think Apple have the luxury of producing a product that doesn't perform, especially when there's like the phones haven't really been updated for a long time, and you've got all these other companies trying to do glasses. If they brought out glasses and they were terrible, I think that would be a problem. But the benefit Apple have, like you said, they make great products and everybody already uses those products. If you have, I've spoken about it before, but like I've got my watch and I wear this watch all day, every day. I've got my Apple headphones, which I wear all day. It's weird if I'm not wearing them all day. So I've already got some like haptic vibrations that can come through here. I've already got the audio already linked up. So in terms of an AR experience, is the glasses is like the last piece of the jigsaw. Once we can
Oh,
put them in, and I can hear my holograms really clearly because they're talking to each other, and I can feel them, when I put my hands out. That experience is going to be above, like everybody's already got 2 out of the 3 pieces,
Yeah.
I never thought about that actually. This is exactly the last piece of puzzle for an immersive experience. I never thought that you can put the AirPods on, wear the Apple Watch. Wow, that's something that they can really capitalize on. And
That's like the full immersion, right?
Yeah.
That you're talking about. Like after that, you'll just be completely immersed into, well, I would say virtual and digital, virtual and physical. I think they're gonna have that sort of like pass through, like the Meta Quest Pro headset has right now. So it's not just gonna be full VR. It's gonna be, like you mentioned, XR, right? All of these sort of augmented reality and virtual reality combined together. It's definitely exciting times ahead. I cannot wait for it. I'm wondering, honestly, in my head, what's gonna be the way to produce for these experiences? Because right now, when you talk about AR, we're limited essentially by either Spark Studio for Instagram or Fake House for TikTok, Lens Studio for Snapchat, and there's of course like Eighth Wall. If you're talking about web devs. But I'm assuming when Apple comes in and when Meta gets bigger, because Meta's sort of combining their VR and AR software slowly as well. I wonder how, like, again, when this gets like massively adopted, there's going to be a lot of creators, I imagine, right? Definitely compared to now. I wonder where these creations are going to be made. Is it going to be like a new Apple software, or I'm not sure. Would you have any guesses?
I think that goes back to the point of like you do have to have like each little baby step, and then it will like slowly progress into something else. Like when Spark AR first came out, it was all like very, very simple selfie effects with Effect House now with like very, very limited capabilities. But then the Spark AR has a week an update every Thursday, so there's 52 updates. So it's just continuously more capabilities, bigger. You can build for Meta Quest Pro, the VR headset in Spark AR. You soon you'll be able to do more, and then like perhaps when they release a wristband, you'll be able to build in with that. It will like, I imagine their software and Lens Studio and everybody else's will like just develop as the Eighth Wall. Once if we stop using our phones and do something else, obviously their software will look different. But yeah, I'm sure Apple's AR kit will develop it in just the same way, but it's just these like tiny little baby steps until we get here. But I should say that that's not to mean that like all AR's trash until then. Like I'm doing the research and the data about engagement, and like people are very, very comfortable using augmented reality all day, every day now. And from a marketing point of view, the research that you can get or the data that's out there about it leading to increased brand loyalty, or it's like driving purchase intent, or it's reducing returns. Like what you can do already is still it's closest thing to magic, really. It still blows my mind.
100%. I totally agree with you, and it's just fascinating to see the growth of AR over the past few years. And like we discussed today, I'm sure if we can hopefully have another conversation over the next few years together, we'll be able to look back and be like, oh shit, like these are the stuff that we talked about. Like these things actually happened. I'm sure we'll have that conversation later on. I do want to ask you one thing, Doddz. Do you have any industry in mind that you think is not currently using AR, but you think will actually thrive if they start using AR?
I think the good thing about AR is it's a tool that can go across any. It's just like a computer; it can go across any industry. So there's probably loads of industries that aren't doing it. The first thing that came to mind, I think, was live events. You see these like fan cams, and there's like a famous NFL the Panthers game where like this panther came across the stadium, and just the engagement that those fan cams for actually people in the stadium and on social, they always bang. People love them.
Yeah.
There's loads you could do. I've spoken to music festivals about like digital clothing for the performers, and then like I can take home an NFT of a Harry Styles outfit and wear it at home and like post my content about it. That's a really easy way for me to feel close to it. Or like if it's on Harry Styles and he's wearing a cowboy hat, and then it pans to the crowd and we're all wearing cowboy hats, like that's a really cool way of feeling really close to the festival. But I also think that TV is could like benefit a lot from AR. Like people are sat down and they're probably on their phone anyway already, and they're sort of passively watching telly. Like if you could, from an accessibility point of view, there's this good example of AR for people who are, need like a sign interpreter. That at the moment takes up like a third of the screen, and then like what you're actually watching is like tiny. But with AR, you could like they could be in the room with you, they could be to the side of the screen, which wouldn't impact the sort of viewing experience from. So that's from accessibility, but then just in terms of content, being able to actually physically engage with the work, like I said earlier, with the TV show, I think everyone will be doing that in the future.
I never fucking thought about the TV show. I think that's a fantastic idea, actually.
That's it. That would make so much sense. And actually it does. When you have all of these ideas, when you talk to brands, like now you're talking to us about this, and because we have done AR before, I can easily imagine it. I can easily, think of what you are saying now makes sense. How do you convince the brand of your ideas? Do you create mock-ups, or do you actually create an AR, like a draft AR experience for them? Because we've been with brands that they are they're a little bit older, and it's very hard for them to imagine when we explain, even if we put it into slides. So we sometimes create something which is not the final product, but like, hey, it will look like this. I'm wondering, how do you communicate basically your concept to the brands as well?
I don't tend to do mock-ups because I don't feel like I'll do them the service that it requires, but I'll share. I'll put together a statement of work, or we'll put together a presentation with lots of visuals in and previous examples and stuff like that. So they can see, they've got a good idea of what it's going to look like in their head. But the storytelling, the way that we present has changed for the better recently, and just the amount of data that we use, because ultimately, I don't know, we're going down like the marketing rabbit hole, but like they'll need to take, you're talking to an account manager, they'll need to go and take it to like the creative director or like the head of finance or something to get your budget signed off. So if you say, to go to the brand loyalty thing, I think with Gen Z, it's like an 80% increase in brand loyalty for those who used AR. Or if it's like an in-store experience, there's data that says, I think it's like 17% of Gen Zs will like go out. Don't quote me on the number because the number's wrong, but they'll go out of their way to try to visit a store that's got an AR experience. Like they're the kind of things that like somebody in the marketing department needs to hear before they then can like sign it off. So the data that's out there, there's loads, and we've obviously collected loads over the past few years. So we've got a pretty good idea when we say, we should do this. It's usually backed up by some sort of reasoning.
That perfectly makes sense. I think that's the best way to do it. And then showing previous example is always really, really helpful, I would say.
100%.
But if you don't have previous examples, like I said with that Drake, like it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be branded work. Like if you know how to do like a plane tracking effect or something, but you haven't done one, but you can share like an example of something you think, it's the quality you think you can do. Like they just need to see something visual to get it. It doesn't have to be a branded piece of work.
Yeah, I generally believe that visuals help a lot, right? Like it's much easier to show than tell. So I generally agree with you on that. Now, Doddz, there is this conversation that me and Farhad wanted to really have, and I'm gonna let Farhad do the honors. It is considering all things that have been happening in the past few months. It's almost inevitable. We have to fucking discuss this, not just with you, but with every guest that comes on. And of course, it is about artificial intelligence. We're talking about GPT-3, GPT-4, Gen 1, Gen 2, Mid-Journey, Stable Diffusion, all these fucking technologies that are just happening so fast. I gotta ask you a question. Farhad, why don't you...
every time I open my phone and then I see a new post that, like text to image, I was like, okay, fine. Then yesterday I saw text to video. Then I saw like a 3D modeler. Like sometimes it really blows my mind what these artificial intelligence can do, what these models can do. And this is at the current stage. Imagine people train them. We have the mass training them for like 3-4 years, what they're gonna look like in 5 years' time. So my question is, are you worried for your position as an AR creator with all the things that are happening with AI?
I'm not worried, but because I think that, and this is not just AR, this is like anybody whose job is going to get taken over by AI. It's probably not going to be taken over by AI. It'll be taken over by somebody who uses AI as a tool. I use AI in whether it's like I'm dyslexic, so like having somebody who can help me with like how I write emails and stuff like that is like an amazing is an amazing tool to have. Writing content, scripts for content and stuff like that. Like I can make more content, which just benefits me because I can post more. You know, the MrBeast piece we talked about earlier, that was scripted by ChatGPT. So it's, if you're using it, if you just like go, oh, I'm not going to do it because it's whatever, then yeah, you're fucked. But then everybody else, like the fact that I could use an AR experience then that can make 3D models, then I might be able to reduce my cost, which actually might mean I might get more work because I can turn it around quicker and make more money. Like, it's just how you're going to use it as a tool to assist you rather than replace you.
I 100% agree with you, but my question, just to twist it around a little bit, is also, do you think then it's gonna make it more difficult for people who spend years training how to, 3D model and all that? And I will say this, considering that these AI models will not be able to match a professional 3D modeler anytime soon. I understand that, but let's just fast forward like 3 years, right? 4 years from now, when these are smart enough to be able to create a clean 3D model, then would that put everybody sort of in the same level? And my concern is then it's not really about hard work or how much experience you have. It's just about how creative your ideas are, because if you can prompt better, then you will be able to get better outputs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I'm trying to think of like the best to articulate my points, but even if, okay, there was one that could do like 3D modeling, I'm not going to be as good as I'm still not going to be, when you're saying everybody's going to be at the same level, I won't still be as good as the 3D modelers that are out there, because I can like use prompts. Somebody who's using the prompts to create better 3D models because they understand that space better is always going to be beneficial. Like if I'll still be able to come up with ideas for augmented reality. If I can use that AI as a tool to help me make better AR, then I'm better for it. So when you're saying like, oh, we're all on the same level, like if you've spent years using AI as a tool, you're still going to be ahead of the competition. I guess that would be like similar as, I don't know, like using a laptop compared to whatever the tech was, like whatever people were using before. Like if you're using it as a tool, then you'll still stay far ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I love your outlook on this. I generally, I was just asking the question because I want to play the devil as well. I want to know every side.
You don't need to apologize. Like this is what like good conversations about. Like I just think that if people kind of just like get on board with it, it's like it's there to help. It's not necessarily gonna come for your job unless you let it, I guess.
Yeah,
100% agree. So what's your weapon of choice when it comes to AI? So you mentioned you use ChatGPT. Do you use any other AI tools in your workflow, or?
I've like experimented with Midjourney. So like using some prompts for there to create like visuals to like put it together. But I haven't found that to be like when I'm thinking of an art piece, like I'm already thinking of what it looks like visually. So I'm not necessarily sure like a Midjourney inspo would change that, but perhaps it will with time. But the one I'm just using ChatGPT mostly for language, for articulation, for even some of the data that I've used has come from like ChatGPT, which again is helping me present better, which is helping me get more work. So or grow on socials, which ultimately gets more work. So I don't think I've dived into Notion's recently released their sort of like AI, and I use it every day. So I've used their stuff again, but ChatGPT is definitely the one I use the most.
Same. I'm using that all. It saves so much time for me. It's sending emails, I really suck at writing things. So it really helps me. I just throw my ideas. It will give me a paragraph. I will use it. I even use it to fill in government's form. Sometimes you need to write a paragraph about something. I'm like, I can't do it formally. Like it will do it. It's great. It's a great tool, and it saves a lot of time. So I can focus on the things that really matter, like AR creation and other stuff. So it really helps a lot, I think.
I absolutely agree with you. I think it helps you with especially the most boring shit, right? The kind of shit you don't want to spend time on. That's where GPT comes in and is like, it nails it 100%. But again, I just want to say I totally appreciate your outlook on how you look at AI. We have the same outlook as well here in our studio, because there's a lot of artists out there who are protesting against AI. And I do understand their concerns. I'm not saying they're wrong or they're right. It's just that I believe it's inevitable. AI is happening whether we want it or not. So if you want to actually succeed, instead of, trying to fight it, I would say if you adapt quicker, then you can actually win with AI. That's what we think. And I believe you have the same attitude based on exactly what you just spoke to us about.
Yeah. I know. I've seen concerns about like Midjourney taking artists' artwork and then repurposing it based off their prompts. And I understand. I'm sure there's like copyright issues that will be resolved and that will be fine tuned. But yeah, like you say, you can use it to your benefit if you so choose. And like you're saying, to do all the stuff that you're not good at, and that then allows you to focus on the stuff that you are good at, then that's only going to benefit you.
100%.
Did you guys know Adobe yesterday, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, released their text to image, and they call it responsible AI? So the reason is the AI is only trained on free licensed images and Adobe stock images. So
but that AI is probably not going to be as good as Midjourney.
No, people have been trying it people have been trying it, and what they are preaching is that yeah, it might not be as good as Midjourney, but at least because with the technology advancement, we have to be responsible too. So they are saying this AI is fully basically trained on the models that people either gave their consent or is free to use.
Midjourney is moving so fast, like because they use everybody's images. Like I mean, if they can catch up with Midjourney, sure, I'll use it. But if the results of Midjourney is going to be better, and if everyone's using Midjourney, I find it hard to believe that just using copyright-free images is going to give them like the best sort of model.
But the thing about Adobe is they have the advantage of having a big market
library.
Effect. Yeah, like no, not even the library. A lot of people use Adobe software, and using text to image within the software is really, really powerful. So imagine you have an image. When I saw the demo, it would just do a prompt that turn this dress to red, and it's red. So you don't have to go there, bring it. So it's faster process, and because they already have this ecosystem, so it's really easy for them to just embed things. And for simple thing, it works perfectly. Like at the demo that I saw, make this red, make this blurry, make this cartoony. Like it's done.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, that they've got that infrastructure in place, so they might be able to catch up with Midjourney, and then having that stock image point of view might be a way for artists who are worried about the AI. It's like a way of them to make money. Like people make money from uploading their stock images from sales there. Like it could turn into a revenue stream if it gets big enough. So yeah, there's lots of creases to iron out, but there's probably some opportunities that will come, I imagine, as well.
100%. Where do you think the AI will be? Like, what would be your prediction for 2 years from now? Like for the things that you do. Like now you have a workflow, I assume. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you can really predict. Well, I mean, stuff's coming out like all the time. Like I couldn't even tell you where AR is going in like the next 2 years. Speed at which it's going at, like I wouldn't even begin to
imagine.
No idea. I've got no idea.
Yeah, no, I honestly, I would say the same thing. I have no fucking clue, man. It's difficult because it's changing so fast. One last thing I want to touch on, Doddz. This is for any MrBeast fan out there. Doddz here has created one of the sickest pieces of art that comes to life using AR. Can you tell us a little bit about it so people can go and check this fucking piece out?
He put on his Instagram about this wall in his studio that is completely bare, and he walks past it every day. So he wants people to send in artwork. So I almost repurposed an old piece that I created that allows you. It's a big canvas that you hold your phone up to, and obviously there's an AR experience, but it's inspired by one of his challenges. So you have to survive 100 days. So the pictures of the 3D experience is this desert island with me and Jimmy on, and you have to feast the balls to keep us active. And there's lots and lots of different layers to it. So from a user's point of view, that's it. Like that's the game. If you do it for 100 days, then you get this like big reward, this big animation at the end. But for like us, I guess sort of like the back end point of view, and this is where I'm saying like I get really excited about something, I'll keep talking about it, and then it won't perform well because no one cares about how much lighting's in the scene, for example. But it takes the date and time. So it takes from the time. If it's in the evening, then the characters are asleep. If it's during the day, then there's a random selection of animations they can be doing. The amount of light changes in the scene. So at nighttime, it looks like nighttime. It's not just day and night. There's like it grows just like the night and day does, which I again, like that's the thing that I'm most impressed by about the piece, but no one will care about that. But the persistence module part of it is probably like the more complicated back end stuff. So you can store data to the device. So obviously you need that to count down from 100 days to then trigger that winning experience. And then when I'm saying you feed us feastables, we have like an energy bar. It's kind of like a Tamagotchi. You feed us, you exercise us, and then that bar will fill up, and then it will inevitably go down over time, and you have to keep feeding us. And that's like the game point of view. But that's the first piece, or like an exploration into moving away from like gimmicky AR, or like if I'm trying to sell artwork to somebody, the AR experience might look sick, but if it's like the same 15-second animation every single time, you'll scan it once, maybe at a dinner party or something like that, but you won't use it again. Whereas something like that, it changes over 100 days, is sort of that first sort of exploration into what will probably be like the next chapter of AR.
Well, we were truly amazed by the post you made about this, and I hope people can go and check it out. Just out of curiosity, the experience is on Instagram, or where have you actually made the experience?
Yeah, it's on Instagram, so it's like squeezed a lot into that sort of like 4 meg.
That's 4 megabytes.
Yeah, how the hell do you go ahead and do all that?
I think that if the file size we look at is like 3.99 megabytes.
Definitely. I always describe those like big ones as like a suitcase that you've just completely overpacked, and like I really had to sort of like sit on it and jump on it and like try and zip it closed. But yeah, I think it's exactly 4 meg.
Awesome. Well, I hope people can go ahead and check out the video. It's on Doddz' Instagram. That's DODDZ, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much again, Doddz, for joining us as our first special guest. And also, we really appreciate you sharing your insights with us when it comes to, augmented reality, and also how to grow on social media if you're trying to talk to brands. We hope that brought some value for the people watching. And that's for me. Farah, do you have anything
I
you
really want
to
to thank Doddz. His insights are always valuable. Make sure you follow him on LinkedIn, on Instagram. He's posting all the time. It's not about always the things that you should do, also sometimes the things that you shouldn't do. And also it's a great way to see how you can build a personal brand. So make sure to follow him on all of his social media as well.
Awesome.
I appreciate that. And if I could just jump in and say that obviously I've seen you guys, I've been following you guys for a while, and I love your optimism. I think you're bringing something to the space, positive energy and good vibes, as well as education as well. Like I've learned some stuff from watching your videos, especially like around the the meta humans that was in Unity, stuff like you're doing great stuff, and that's why I wanted, when you asked, it was a no-brainer. So it's great to meet you guys, and again, thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much, Doddz. Again, I really appreciate it. We have the same energy, same vibe. I really appreciate that. And thank you guys so much for joining. See you guys on the next episode.